In this video, let's talk about hearsay. And let's start with how the federal rules of evidence define hearsay. So I've got the definition of hearsay up here on the screen. Please pause this video and read through the definition once before resuming. So please go ahead and pause this video now. Okay, now for most people, this definition of hearsay alone doesn't really make clear what is and what is not hearsay. So let's see if we can make this a little bit easier to understand by going through each of the elements of hearsay one at a time. So first of all, for something to be considered hearsay, it has to be a statement. And the federal rules of evidence define statement. All right, so here's the definition of statement. Statement means a person's oral assertion, written assertion, or nonverbal conduct if the person intended it as an assertion. So this is the definition of statement that we use for the hearsay rule. Now, the first thing that could constitute a statement is an oral assertion, and that's pretty straightforward. So let's say we have a friend, Bob, and he comes in from outside, and we ask him whether it's raining outside, and he says, yeah, it's raining. Well, that's an oral assertion, and so that would constitute a statement. All right, a statement can also be a written assertion. So let's say Bob comes in from outside, we ask him if it's raining, and he writes down on a piece of paper, yes, it's raining outside. That's a written assertion, and so that too would constitute a statement. And the last thing that can be a statement is nonverbal conduct. Conduct can be a statement, but only if that conduct is intended, if it's intended as an assertion. So if Bob comes in from outside, and we ask him whether it's raining, and in response to our question, he shakes out his umbrella. Well, that conduct of shaking out his umbrella would likely be considered a statement, and that's because he's shaking out his umbrella as an assertion to try to tell us that it is raining outside. Okay, so you can think of this as being a communication of some fact. So if the conduct is a communication of some fact, if it's intended as an assertion of something, well then the conduct itself can be considered a statement. Now importantly, that conduct has to be intended as an assertion. So if Bob comes in from outside and we don't ask him whether it's raining, and he's not trying to tell us that it's raining, he simply shakes out his umbrella because he's trying to get it dry, well then his conduct, even though it's the same conduct, that conduct would not be considered a statement, and that's because it's not intended to communicate a fact. It's not intended as an assertion. So for something to be hearsay, it first of all needs to be a statement. All right, let's look at the next requirement of the hearsay rule. And in addition to being a statement, for something to be hearsay, it has to be a statement that the declarant does not make while testifying at the current trial or hearing. All right, so the federal rules give us some guidance on this as well. They give us the definition of declarant. All right, so this is the definition of declarant that we use for our hearsay rule. But this seems pretty straightforward. Declarant means a person, the person who made the statement. Well, why do we need to know that? Okay, let's consider this guy on the witness stand here. And let's say he testifies by saying, it's raining. Well, it's raining is an oral assertion, and so it's a statement, right? Declarant means the person who made the statement, and so this guy is the one who made the statement, so this guy is the declarant. But for something to be hearsay, it has to be a statement that the declarant does not make while testifying. This guy made the statement while he's testifying, and so this statement would not be considered hearsay. But let's say he said something a little bit different. Let's say he said, Bob said it's raining. Well, it's raining is still a statement, but the declarant is somebody different now. Declarant means the person who made the statement. Bob is the one who made the statement, so Bob is the declarant, not this guy on the witness stand. For something to be hearsay, it has to be a statement that the declarant does not make while testifying. Well, Bob said this when he came in from outside. He didn't say this while testifying, and so this statement, it's raining, is potentially hearsay. All right, now let's say that this guy on the witness stand is Bob. All right, now Bob probably doesn't refer to himself in the third person, so instead of saying Bob said it's raining, he'd probably say I said it's raining. Well, it's raining is still an oral assertion, so it's still a statement, and the declarant is Bob. But let's go through the hearsay rule here. Hearsay means a statement, and this is a statement, that the declarant does not make while testifying. Now, Bob is testifying right now, but this statement, "it's raining," was made by Bob at a time when he was not testifying. Right? He's referring to the statement that he made when he came in from outside, not a statement that he made while he's on the witness stand. Okay, so this statement, I said, "it's raining," is potentially hearsay because it's a statement that the declarant did not make while testifying, even though Bob is right now on the witness stand. Okay, this statement itself was not made while the declarant was testifying at a current trial or hearing. Now, the situation would be different if Bob said something else. Let's say that Bob was asked if he remembers the circumstances of that day when he came in from outside, and he says, "Yeah, I remember. It was raining." All right, so now this is another statement, but this is not potentially hearsay. This is just, it's not hearsay. And the reason it's not hearsay is because Bob is testifying. He's making this statement right now while he's testifying. He's testifying about his recollection of the circumstances of that day. It was raining. He's not talking about what he said on that day. Right? If he were testifying about what he said at that time, then that statement that he made at that time was a statement that was not made while he was testifying, and so it would potentially be hearsay. But this statement, "it was raining," is the statement that he's making right now. It's his current recollection of the circumstances of that day. And the declarant, Bob, is making this statement, "it was raining," while he's testifying. And so this statement would not be considered hearsay. All right, so now let's look at the next requirement of hearsay. All right, so for something to be considered hearsay, it has to be a statement, first of all. It has to be a statement that the declarant does not make while testifying, and it has to be a statement that a party offers in evidence to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Now that just means that the statement is offered into evidence to try to prove that the statement itself is true. All right, so our statement, "it's raining," could be introduced for a number of different reasons. Right? Someone may try to offer this statement into evidence to try to show that, in fact, it was raining. Well, in that case, the statement would be offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. But the statement could be offered to prove some other things as well. Maybe Bob tries to claim later on that he didn't know it was raining. All right? In that case, this statement could be introduced to show Bob's knowledge, or at least his belief, that it was in fact raining. So he can't try to argue that he didn't know it was raining after all. The statement could also be introduced to try to show the effect on the listeners. All right? After hearing Bob's statement, maybe everybody put on rain jackets, and we're trying to show that in fact everybody did put on rain jackets. Well, then the statement could be introduced to try to show what the likely effect would be on all the people who listened. Maybe we're just trying to show that Bob was there. Right? Was Bob there that day? Oh yeah, he was there. I remember he said, "it's raining," and nobody says it in the way that Bob says it, and so I definitely remember that he was there. In that case, the statement is again being introduced to show something other than the truth of the matter asserted. It's being offered to try to show that Bob was there. Right? And there are a number of other reasons why a statement could be introduced other than the truth of the matter asserted. But the important thing is, for something to be considered hearsay, it needs to be a statement that's offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, to try to prove that the statement itself is true. All right, so let's review. We said that for something to be hearsay, it has to be a statement. And a statement can be an oral statement, a written statement, or it can be nonverbal conduct if that conduct was intended as an assertion. And we also said that for something to be hearsay, it has to be a statement that the declarant does not make while testifying. So we know that the statement has to be an out-of-court statement. And finally, the statement needs to be one that's offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So lawyers will often use this as a shortcut for understanding whether something is hearsay. We'll consider whether it is an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. If each one of these elements is satisfied, then the statement is hearsay.